Oh, wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Chris, I apologize to you.
A lot of people go, Chris, how come you didn't do nothing back? Because I got parents. That's why. Because I was raised. And you know what my parents taught me? Don't fight in front of white people.
Will Smith did not enter Hollywood as a joke. He entered as a certainty. For almost 20 years, his name on a poster signaled safety, safe profits, safe charm, safe spectacle. Studios didn't take chances when they cast Will Smith. They invested. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, he had become one of the most dependable box office forces the industry had ever known, earning salaries that rose beyond $30 million per movie. That level of control was not by chance. Smith learned the system early. He analyzed movie stars the way athletes study game film, tracking patterns, crowd response, and timing. He steered clear of controversy, avoided profanity, and refused to alienate any group. His appeal was carefully constructed to feel universal. Children adored him. Parents trusted him. Global audiences embraced him. In an industry defined by uncertainty, Will Smith was stability in human form. Film after film cemented the image. Alien invasions, secret agents, apocalyptic futures. No matter how much chaos unfolded on screen, Smith's presence reassured audiences that everything would settle by the final act. Even when critics dismissed the movies, ticket sales held strong. Producers didn't need trophies. They needed opening weekends, and Will Smith delivered them with near mechanical reliability. But beneath the confidence was another layer. Smith wasn't only selling films. He was selling an image. The smiling hero, the devoted family man, the disciplined professional who stayed clean in a messy business while other stars burned out. He presented himself as grounded, controlled, almost untouched by scandal. That image became as valuable as his performances. By the mid-2000s, he wasn't just a star. He was a brand. A brand built on likability, self-control, and emotional openness. Audiences didn't just watch Will Smith movies. They cheered for Will Smith the person. The industry rewarded that loyalty, and Smith understood how rare and fragile it was, which is why what followed felt so disorienting. When fractures finally appeared, they didn't resemble the typical Hollywood collapse. There were no arrests, no addictions, no tabloid implosions at first. Instead, the unraveling came quietly, then suddenly, and finally all at once on a stage, seen by millions.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
My wife's name out your mouth.
Wow, dude.
Yes.
It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your mouth.
I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay.
By the time the 2022 Academy Awards arrived, the pressure had been building for years. The slap did not materialize out of thin air. It arrived carrying old resentments, unresolved pride, and a public persona stretched beyond its limits. To understand why that moment exploded the way it did, you have to rewind 6 years to another Oscars night that quietly planted the seed. In 2016, Will Smith and his wife Jada publicly boycotted the Academy Awards, calling out the lack of diversity among nominees. The protest fueled a broader industry debate, but it also placed Smith directly in the sights of comedians and critics. That same night, host Chris Rock addressed the boycott from the stage, framing it less as a principled stand and more as bitterness. The jokes landed. The crowd laughed. Smith stayed silent, but the moment lingered. Fast forward to March 27th, 2022, Will Smith was hours away from winning his first Oscar, the payoff of decades of meticulous career planning. The room was celebratory, relaxed, and broadcast live around the world. When Chris Rock came on stage to present an award, he did what hosts are paid to do. He joked. One line aimed at Jada Pinkett. Smith's shaved head drew laughter, including from Will himself. Then the mood shifted. Jada's reaction was immediate and visible. Will's laughter stopped. Within seconds, he stood, walked to the stage, and struck Chris Rock across the face. The room locked up. For a brief moment, it was unclear whether viewers had witnessed a bit or a breakdown. The answer came fast. Back in his seat, Smith shouted for Rock to keep his wife's name out of his mouth. The broadcast cut audio. Social media detonated. What should have been the defining night of Smith's career became one of the most shocking moments in live television history. Minutes later, Will Smith returned to the same stage to accept his Oscar. He cried. He offered vague apologies. He framed his actions as protection, as love, as a flawed reaction to pressure. But the damage was already irreversible. The slap wasn't only physical. It destroyed the image that had shielded him for decades.
Why didn't you apologize to Chris in your acceptance speech? I was fogged out by that point. It's all fuzzy. I've reached out to Chris, and the message that came back is that he's not ready to talk, and when he is, he will reach out. So I will say to you, Chris, I apologize to you. My behavior was unacceptable, and I'm here whenever you're ready to talk.
The fallout was instant and relentless. Within hours, the story surrounding Will Smith flipped from victory to disgrace. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences condemned the incident publicly, and what followed went beyond symbolism. After internal review, Smith was banned from attending the Oscars and all Academy events for 10 years. For a man who had spent his career chasing institutional approval, the exile cut deeply. Smith moved fast to contain the damage. He resigned from the Academy before disciplinary action was finalized, presenting the decision as accountability. He released written apologies, followed by video apologies. He addressed fans, colleagues, and later Chris Rock himself, offering private conversation whenever Rock was ready. The words were measured, rehearsed, and remorseful, but timing worked against him. Public opinion had already set. Behind closed doors, consequences stacked up. Film projects were delayed or quietly dropped. Studios hesitated. Executives recalculated exposure. Will Smith was no longer viewed as safe. And in Hollywood, perception carries the same weight as talent. Even longtime partners began to step back, not from spite, but from caution. The industry that once reshaped itself around him now waited to see if he was worth defending. What made the aftermath more severe was the contradiction at its core. Will Smith had built his career on control, emotional, professional, and moral. The slap represented the loss of that control in front of the largest audience imaginable. It wasn't just violent, it was impulsive. And for a star whose brand depended on discipline, that impulse was catastrophic. The moment also redefined his Oscar win. Instead of marking validation, it became inseparable from controversy. The award no longer represented a peak. It marked a pivot. From that night on, every explanation sounded like excuse, and every silence felt like avoidance. The Academy's ban was only the official penalty. The real punishment was Cultural. Respect, once lost, is rarely recovered, especially when millions watched it vanish in real time.
It's a situation that I consider private.
You just feel like it ain't really nobody's
It's business,
Yeah,
but-
yeah. But now Black Twitter has claimed it as their business.
You and I were going through a very difficult time.
Yeah.
And we decided.
I was done with your ass.
Yeah, you kicked me to the curb.
I was done with you.
Yeah. We
Marriages
basically-
have that, though. Marriages have that.
Yeah, we basically, we broke up.
And then what did you do, Jada?
Well, you know, I think from there, you know, as time went on, I got into a different kind of entanglement with August.
An entanglement?
Yes. Yes.
A relationship?
Yes, it was a
Yeah.
relationship, absolutely. The only person that could give permission in that particular
yeah.
circumstance is myself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But what August was probably trying to communicate, because I could actually see how he would perceive it as permission because we were separated amicably.
Yeah.
And I think he also wanted to make it clear that he's not a homewrecker. I just wanted to feel good. It had been so long since I felt good. And it was really a joy to just help heal somebody. We ride together,
We die together.
Bad marriage for life.
To the public, the slap appeared sudden. To those paying close attention, it felt like the breaking point of a much longer, quieter unraveling. Will Smith's marriage, once portrayed as a model of Hollywood stability, had been under growing scrutiny for years. What set it apart was not the presence of issues, but how openly those issues were discussed. The shift became undeniable when singer August Alsina publicly claimed he had been involved in a romantic relationship with Jada Pinkett Smith. The allegation alone dominated headlines, but it intensified when Alsina stated that Will Smith was aware and had given approval. The claim was never independently confirmed, but it demanded a response. That response did not arrive through lawyers or press statements, but on camera. Will and Jada sat together on Red Table Talk, her online discussion show, and addressed the situation directly. Jada described a period of separation and acknowledged a relationship she famously labeled an entanglement. Will, seated beside her, pressed for clarity. She eventually confirmed it had been romantic. The episode was framed as honesty and healing. The audience saw something else. Clips spread showing Will's expressions, tight smiles, distant eyes, controlled composure. Memes followed. Almost immediately, online reaction shifted from curiosity to ridicule, and sympathy quickly turned to mockery. What stood out wasn't the relationship itself, but the imbalance on display. Jada appeared steady and resolved. Will appeared exposed. The image of the confident, controlled movie star collapsed into something more uneasy. A man navigating private pain in public, without distance or mystery. From that moment forward, Smith's carefully maintained persona began to erode. Silence that once read as strength was now interpreted as submission. Each new public conversation about the marriage added another layer of scrutiny, making it harder for Smith to reclaim the authority and composure that once defined him. By the time he stepped onto the Oscar stage in 2022, he wasn't only defending his wife. He was defending an identity that had been eroding for years, one already under pressure long before the world watched his hand land across Chris Rock's face.
Hey, come meet our family.
Put my jacket on.
Okay.
Put my tie up.
Very nice shirt.
So Jaden, this is your first premiere. How you feeling tonight?
The Mary.
Premiering.
Yeah.
I want to present the bestest brother in the whole entire world, Jaden Smith.
Put the pose on, Ben. Put the governor.
Hit another one. There you go. There you go. One more. Hit it one more time, baby. Hit it one more.
I thought I was would be nervous, but I'm not nervous. Well, I'm sort of nervous because I thought I would be nervous because the lights were hitting my eyes. I thought that would hurt.
Pretty much the boss wherever she goes, which is why I named her Reign, R-E-I-G-N. So she gets it naturally. You know, her mom and her dad, you know, we can be some pretty bossy people ourselves.
As the marriage storyline filled the news cycle, another foundation of Will Smith's image started to shake. His role as the head of a model family. For years, the Smith home had been presented as evidence that fame, creativity, and strong parenting could exist together. Will and Jada were not simply raising kids. They were shaping the next generation. Hollywood paid close attention. Jaden Smith moved into the industry with almost no friction. First seen as his father's extension, then positioned as a star on his own. Early roles hinted at talent and an expected rise. But that rise stalled. Acting opportunities slowed and eventually disappeared. Jaden turned his focus toward music and fashion, spaces where experimentation mattered more than mass success. His public appearances became rare and heavily analyzed. Fans questioned his well-being, his direction, and his distance. What once felt like bold individuality began to resemble aimlessness. Around the same time, reports surfaced that Jaden wanted to leave home at a very young age. The detail alone was not explosive, but it strengthened a growing sense. This family was not as steady as it seemed. The polished image of guidance and authority was fading. Willow Smith followed a different path but reached a similar outcome. Pushed into global fame before her teen years, she carried pressure most adults never face. Years later, she spoke openly about depression and self-harm and linked part of that pain to early exposure and expectation. Her honesty was powerful, but it also reshaped the narrative. Instead of a protected dynasty, the Smiths began to resemble another Hollywood warning. Too much access, too little shielding, and private struggles unfolding in public view. Once again, Will Smith appeared less like a master planner and more like someone responding after harm had already occurred. None of this implied cruelty or neglect. But public perception does not wait for subtlety as stories stacked up about marriage, identity, and parenting. The illusion of control collapsed. The man who once seemed to steer everything now looked surrounded by results he could not direct. When audiences finally looked back at Will Smith, they no longer saw an unstoppable icon. They saw a father, a husband, and a public figure absorbing one hit after another. Each one chipping away at the authority that once made him untouchable.
What would you say to the people who looked up to you before the slap, or people who expressed that you let them down? So there's two things. One, disappointing people is my central trauma. I hate when I let people down. So it hurts. It hurts me psychologically and emotionally to know I didn't live up to people's image and impression of me. And the work I'm trying to do is I am deeply remorseful, and I'm trying to be remorseful without being ashamed of myself, right? I'm human, and I made a mistake, and I'm trying not to think of myself as a piece of shit. So I would say to those people, I know it was confusing, I know it was shocking, but I promise you, I am deeply devoted and committed to putting light and love and joy into the world. And, you know, if you hang on, I promise we'll be able to be friends again.
After the backlash became permanent, Will Smith chose not to vanish. Instead, he attempted something far harder: reinvention in real time. His approach was constant visibility through podcasts, interviews, speeches, and reflections. He spoke repeatedly about responsibility, ego, and self-awareness, presenting the Oscars moment as a painful but necessary awakening. The tone was philosophical, almost spiritual, as if insight could soften judgment. But the reaction was mixed from audiences who wanted space and restraint. The nonstop exposure felt rushed. Every appearance reopened the scar. What Smith meant as openness often came across as performance. People debated his sincerity and questioned the timing. In trying to explain himself, he struggled to match the public's fatigue. Then came a shift toward younger viewers. Smith appeared with popular streamers and online creators entering digital spaces that did not fit him easily. The moments were uncomfortable, sometimes self-aware, sometimes painfully misaligned. Viewers did not see a legend connecting eras. They saw someone chasing relevance where relevance cannot be forced. Even his humor felt altered. Once natural, now tense. The confidence that once powered his charm seemed replaced by restless energy, as if every second demanded redemption. Nothing could just exist anymore. Every joke, every appearance, every word was filtered through the slap. The comeback effort failed not from lack of work, but from misreading the moment. Smith treated reputation as something that could be talked back into place, but cultural memory does not reset that way. Silence might have created distance. Overexposure magnified unease. The industry noticed, and fans did too. Will Smith was not fully rejected, but he was not embraced again either. He existed in an uneasy space. Visible but unanchored, active but unsure. The harder he tried to guide the story, the clearer it became that it no longer belonged to him. With each attempt to reclaim control, Smith edged closer to a lesson he once understood and later forgot. Sometimes the strongest comeback is patience, and patience was something he no longer seemed willing to gamble on.
Actor Will Smith is addressing that infamous slap at the Academy Awards in the first music video from his new album.
Will Smith is canceled. Oh, you can't cancel no one. He walking around like he all invincible or somebody.
Strange but true, Smith has just released his first album in 20 years. In several songs, he's addressing the backlash after he slapped comedian Chris Rock on stage at the Academy Awards in 2022. Smith is banned from attending the Oscars for 10 years, though he's still eligible to receive nominations.
When exposure and conversation failed to repair his image, Will Smith went back to where it all started. Music. In early 2025, he announced a return album called Based on a True Story. His first full project in more than 20 years. The message was intentional. This was not nostalgia. This was confession. Smith framed the album as raw, direct, and personal. A chance to finally speak without strategy. He sought advice from respected voices in hip-hop, including Jay-Z and Kendrick Lamar. Their message was clear and dangerous. Stop playing the role. Speak honestly. Smith followed that advice completely. The album faced his public collapse, directly touching on ego, shame, and the moment that reshaped his name. For the first time, he was not trying to be universally loved. He wanted to be understood. The response was harsh. Critics labeled the album awkward and self-centered. Reviews called it disconnected, emotionally clumsy, and overly sincere. Instead of reflection, many heard defensiveness. The vulnerability meant to humanize him only reinforced the sense that he was still justifying himself. Sales echoed the criticism. The project failed to build momentum, and online reaction leaned toward ridicule. Listeners did not hear evolution. They heard someone trapped in a moment he could not leave behind. What was meant to heal became another symbol of decline. Smith followed with videos and live shows doubling down on the theme. The visuals were loud, colorful, and youthful, but the mismatch was impossible to ignore. The energy did not align with his age, his history, or the weight now tied to his name. Rather than reclaiming space, he seemed smaller within it. Music had once launched him forward. Now it revealed the boundaries of reinvention. The industry did not punish the attempt, but it did not reward it either. With every release, the same question returned. Was this progress or desperation framed as truth?
Yeah, that was a horrific night, as you can imagine. At the end of the day, I lost it, you know. And I guess what I would say, you just never know what somebody's going through. It was a lot of things. It was the little boy that watched his father beat up his mother. You know, it's all of that just bubbled up in that moment.
Today, Will Smith occupies a position few celebrities reach, and even fewer leave. He is not fully cast aside and not fully restored. His name still matters, but certainty is gone. Studios move carefully. Audiences remain cautious. Each appearance feels like a verdict rather than entertainment. What cannot be denied is that his downfall was not triggered by one act alone, but by timing. The slap did not end his career. It confirmed doubts that had been building quietly. The image of discipline, control, and emotional strength shattered in a single moment, exposing years of unresolved pressure underneath. Once that illusion broke, everything after was viewed through it. Smith continues to work. Films are still produced. Music is still released, but the automatic trust that once surrounded him has vanished. He no longer benefits from assumed goodwill. He must now earn what once came freely. Still, his story resists a simple ending. Unlike many fallen stars, Will Smith did not disappear. He stayed present. He accepted responsibility even when it hurt. He chose exposure over silence and endured ridicule rather than retreat. That persistence, imperfect as it is, complicates the story. Time may soften judgment. History often balances anger with empathy. But legacy is shaped by moments. And Will Smith's defining moment is no longer a film or an award. It is a single impulsive act that redefined everything around him. What remains is a hard truth Hollywood avoids. Success does not shield you from collapse. Sometimes it speeds it up. And when a persona built on perfection breaks, rebuilding demands more than apologies, explanations, or comebacks. It requires patience, humility, and distance. 3 things Will Smith is still learning to live with. So after everything you have seen, do you believe Will Smith's fall came from one irreversible moment? Or from the slow breakdown of an image that was never as solid as it appeared? Share your thoughts in the comments. And when you finish, click the video beside this one to explore another public figure whose carefully built legacy unraveled in a very different way.